The start of the FIFA World Cup is now 19 hours away, but not everyone is going to get to the games. This week, the U.S. found itself at the center of more controversy when a Somali referee was barred from entering the United States despite having a valid visa and all valid credentials. He was questioned about issues with immigration, and so FIFA's president today had some, well, what many people found to be surprising advice for critics.
Of course, it is unfortunate as well what happened to Omar, the referee from Somalia. But again, we don't control everything. We try, we will discuss, we will speak, we will see. Maybe sometimes it's good as well to just, chill, relax. We work on everything. We try to solve everything. Sometimes to immediately start screaming and shouting has the opposite effect of finding a solution.
Let's get reaction to these comments from Joey Durso. He's the author of More Than a Shirt, How Football Shirts Explain Global Politics, Money and Power. He's a journalist who covers soccer or football. We reached him in Birmingham, England. So people, Joey, including that referee, just need to chill. What do you think?
Well, no, I think it's pretty disgraceful, to be honest. It's the kind of the deal of the World Cup, the country that everyone hosts it. The deal is that you're hosting the world, you're hosting those teams, you're hosting officials and whatever else, and whatever your current laws, or you have to suspend those for those individuals. And that's what's happened in pretty much every other World Cup. And that's very unusual about this World Cup. And for the many sins of Russia and Qatar, these things weren't happening. It's bizarre, and the president of FIFA is sort of disgracing himself here, I think.
I've never covered a World Cup, but I have covered a few Olympics, including in countries like Russia. And I know that when you get vetted by the IOC and you get your credentials from the IOC, it is expected that the country that you're going to will let you in. It is a travel document. They've agreed to follow the lead of the IOC. I assume it's the same with the World Cup. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, there's no precedent for it. I've never heard of anything like it. The deal is that you welcome the world. You know, Russia, and I'm not for a minute excusing the many sins of Vladimir Putin's Russia, but Russia suspended all visas on tourists in 2018. There was certainly none of these issues involving match officials. There are all sorts of other issues. But it's this odd embrace between President Trump and Gianni Infantino, which is like nothing we've ever seen before. I mean, during Joe Biden's White House, Infantino could barely get a meeting with anyone. And now with Trump, they're sort of best friends in a way that's quite odd and quite unusual and not really what we should be talking about. We should be talking about the players. And there are always issues that come up during the World Cup. But this idea of sort of sports administrators being such powerful figures is, I don't think, what anyone wants to see.
So the mayor of Toronto and the premier of the province of British Columbia, perhaps among others, but certainly those two notably, have said that Canada would welcome this Somalian referee with open arms. Do you think there's any chance at all that FIFA might assign him to a game in Canada?
Well, the difficulty is that all the referees are at one base, which is in Florida, and they're being trained there, they're being prepared there. They go straight back after the games to sort of, probably it's nice for them to have a meal with other referees and talk about how the games are going, whatever else. But it's a sort of protocol. There's lots of safety issues as well and security involving referees who might be threatened or whatever else, but not really. This is an incredibly complicated logistical event with 48 teams, many host cities, 3 different countries. It's not very easy at the last minute to just say to someone, and we also are seeing a similar thing with the Iranian team who are based in Mexico, flying in and out of their 3 games in the United States because of the extreme visa restrictions on Iran. Various members of the entourage are probably not going to be able to go. A lot of these things are very strange, they've not been seen before, and it's really not a good thing to be talking about a matter of hours before the tournament kicks off in Mexico City.
Yeah, well, let's talk about something that's more football related, less political, but does have to do with logistics. You have this World Cup spread out over 3 huge countries, large distance, from the southernmost to the northernmost host city here. How do you think that's going to affect the spirit of the World Cup?
Well, it's not completely new, and World Cups have recently been in places like Russia and Brazil that are big and there are lots of flying. Not as much flying as there is between, Vancouver to Florida to Mexico. But I think a big issue is that players are just going to be tired. And one reason for that is the size and scale of it. One reason for that is the tournament is bigger. There's 8 games rather than 7 if you reach the final. And finally, the pinnacle of the club game in Europe, in England and Spain and whatever, is so much longer now. You have additional tournaments, additional rounds, and we're seeing at the very summit of football in club international games that players are just too tired. And we might have the scenario where it's the World Cup quarterfinal, semi-final, final, and the quality isn't that good because they've just come on a really long flight. They've just played 65 games in a season. So this fatigue issue is the thing that I'm the most worried about that might stop this being the best World Cup ever, which it should be.
Before I let you go, I do want to ask you one more thing that ties into your research as a journalist. You've looked at the finances behind FIFA. What have you learned?
Well, I mean, so the word corruption is thrown around a lot, and there were huge corruption allegations and raids on a Swiss hotel in 2015. Now it's kind of above board. You can use whatever word you want, but the members vote for who the president is. The members get given loads of money, which comes from tickets and broadcast rights at the World Cup. This is what's happening. It's all completely in plain sight. And this is the story of those incredibly expensive ticket prices, the huge commercial deals with things like Saudi Arabia sponsoring the World Cup. That money then gets funneled back into member associations, including tiny little countries which have the same voting power as England or Germany or Brazil or wherever. And surprise, surprise, they tend to re-elect the leader of FIFA, Mr. Infantino.
Remind us one more time the title of your latest book.
Thank you. It's More Than a Shirt, How Football Shirts Explain Global Politics, Money and Power. Probably should have called it Soccer Jerseys for the North American audience, but football shirts it is.
We'll understand. Joey D'Urso, really nice talking to you. Thanks a lot.